All right, it's Friday, July 7th. This is the end of the day and end of the week SPY recap. And you can see today we end up with a kind of a two-up shooter bar, meaning we started up above the high of the previous day, held the midpoint of the previous day, worked up into this gap, and then by the end of the day came all the way down, and we have a hammer bar followed by a shooter bar. And this is something that I was discussing yesterday in terms of I expected the market to kind of head up a little bit today given this hammer bar, given the fact that on the weekly chart, I think this green bar still possibly, should test those highs, and we had the signal, but I also was a little bit concerned about this gap and how price would react to it, and that kind of was going to guide me into kind of what happens next. And you can see obviously we fell off towards the afternoon. I'll get into that in a minute, but in terms of the bigger picture, we now end up with that weekly inside bar that I was anticipating, and that's a red bar, so it looks like we want to likely test those lows, before testing the highs, and then we find out if we fail. The only way, we fail is if we get, break below these lows, don't reach our target down here, and eventually come up through the midpoint of that bar. Of course, it's possible we start right up on Monday and continue higher, and this is just a big pause week and this after this green bar, but we will find out, if we open up above the midpoint of this bar next week and the pre-market range and everything else. So again, that's what I was discussing yesterday, how I was a little uncertain. Are we going to continue up, or was this the potential beginning of taking out the higher highs here and then making eventual lower lows down here, or none of the above? We end up with an inside price action and eventually break out one way or the other. So in terms of being uncertain what was going to happen today, I wanted the opening price action to guide me. We had the pre-market range, and there was a report released, so you had the volatility, but there was a kind of a high-low range here, and the very first bar here held the lows, went up, and there was a potential buy right in here if you were going to trade the indexes outright. According to my approach, I usually use the stop of the first bar, the midpoint to the first bar, is my stop. And we came down here, we would look like maybe we would fail, but then you can see we had a big reversal bar on this bar and started up again. There's your secondary buy for your secondary push. Then once we got above this, the intraday high and the pre-market kind of liquidity area in here, we didn't in any way, shape, or form fail. We just kind of continued, and that meant we were probably heading higher, and the morning trade was very, clear in terms of direction to the upside. We never took out the week, the opening of the month and the week to turn that green. That's up here, but we got close to it. And then we'd had the big, pullback. And at this point, again, I was watching the market. I wasn't surprised at all that after kind of moving down, we had the market had no interest in getting back to those highs again. We pulled back too far, and then to have this collapse at the end of the day is just not surprising if you've been watching these markets lately and what could happen in the afternoon. So again, that's why I look for that morning trade above all else. First push, second push, that type of thing, and wherever price leads me, that's what I look for. So there was a very good trade to the upside today. If you wanted to play it, then you should be kind of out of the market at that point. There's just nothing to do in the afternoon. To me, once I started dropping, if you wanted to just sell it, and just see what happened, that was a possibility. But other than that, there was no actionable signal according to my methodology. So anyway, we close now with the hammer bar followed by a shooter bar, expecting to test lower. We will see, what kind of pullback might unfold here if we go lower, and if we fail to reach, the target down here, the bottom of this green bar, then we will look for reversals to the upside next week, because that's still in play. But now we really need to see something reverse, assuming, again, we start lower. We'll then monitor any kind of a daily reversal, which could lead to a weekly reversal, which could eventually turn this month green. But for now, the month is red, and the inside bar is going to likely break to the downside. Let's just keep, unless, that's the expectation anyway, and then we'll just see where we go from there. We might go all the way to the bottom. Like I said, we do have this kind of broadening action, higher highs here and lower lows here, so we could come all the way down, to these lows down here. But we'll find out, that would just be the inside bar target, and then at that point you can possibly have a weekly reversal to the upside, but we'll see. Maybe this starts a big, deep pullback that goes much further than anyone expected. So price action will guide the way. Today it was a very good opportunity on the upside, but again, I was following this gap in here because just something that looked like an area where price may or may not, want to continue higher. So in this case, it didn't, and we'll watch the midpoint of this bar, in order to start anything up next week. If not, then we're probably going to be testing lower.